Station in East Liverpool.
KBN would like to salute the following employees celebrating employment anniversaries during the month of December. Jim Roush, Radio Engineering. Marty Paradise, Radio Sales. Carla Amon, TV Engineering. Mike Pashotti, TV Photographer. Elizabeth Blanchard, TV News. And Karen Renner, TV Promotions. Congratulations and thanks for a job well done.
Coming this fall, all new episodes of Zoo Life with Jack Hanna. More fun, more amazement, and more adventure. Catch the action on Zoo Life with Jack Hanna.
Golly day.
Saturday morning at 6:30, only here on TV 27.
Join me, Mr. Food, weekdays during First News at noon.
Good morning. I'm Karen Franklin, and welcome to Common Ground. Common Ground is a brand new show here at WKBN, which will address issues and activities concerning teenagers in our 5-county area. Our first program deals with Malcolm X and X fashions. So we took our cameras to Warren G. Harding High School, along with film clips from the movie and actual speeches from Malcolm X. We wanted to find out what the kids thought about what they saw. Let's give a look.
The Organization of Afro-American Unity is involved in an effort to get the case of the continued mistreatment of Negroes in this country brought before the United Nations. Our effort is to try and get it recognized not as a Negro problem or a United States problem, but a world problem, a human problem. And we think that the only way to get America, the racist element in America, to change their attitude is by bringing outside pressure and world pressure to bear.
I've never at any time made any statement that anybody can even interpret to indicate that I believe in initiating acts of aggression or violence indiscriminately against people. But I do believe when people are being oppressed and are the victims of brutality, that they are within their rights to defend themselves. And when they defend themselves, in my opinion, this is not violence. This is self-defense. And I believe that people all over the world, whether if they are the victims of brutality, whether it's South Africa or Alabama or New York City, they have the right to do whatever is necessary to protect themselves. And this is the dangerous era that we're getting into now, because people are beginning to think just like I think. These people who have been willing to be the victims of other people's violence are beginning to see that it's a two-way street.
I want to know your reactions to the tape, your reaction to what you heard on the tape. Anything you didn't understand? Whatever you feel.
Okay. Watching the tape, it was hard for me to understand because I don't know that much about Malcolm X because nothing's really taught in the textbooks in school. And even if it's in there, which I don't know, we never get to that point because we're always in, the Civil War or even the colonies, 13 colonies. So, I mean, it was hard to understand and follow and see a whole picture of him because I really don't know that much about him.
Well, what I feel about the tape is, like, I understand a lot of it because I read his autobiography and I know the different phases that he went through. And to me, Malcolm X is like a hero to me because the different methods and how he went through a lot and how he changed to become a person that he was before his death. So he's like a hero to me.
When you hear Malcolm X, maybe you don't, but a lot of people I've talked to have said that Malcolm had a violent side to him. When you saw that on the tape, what's your feeling on that? Dan?
On the tape, Malcolm X didn't come off to me as violent as I have been brought up to believe. and his views on the tape, from what I've read, kind of matched. It said that he, like you had said about the Caucasian, he did not feel that they were all evil, and that kind of, you know, makes me look at him more respectfully, and you know, it makes me think of him. I don't know, I can't find it. He came off more and more as a gentle side, non-violent. I didn't look at him violently like I would have thought I had before I seen this. Malcolm X, in my mind now, shows that he is not violent. He was non-violent on tape. He had violent actions, but only when violence was brought for him or to him. But he was passive when other people were passive. Just like if I had to talk to someone, I'd be passive because that's how I'd like to be treated, and that's all he was trying to get across. And I agree with that. I agree with everything that he said.
Well, the violent issue, at that time, a lot of people were very violent at the things that were happening and all the riots and all the race issues and everything. And I just feel that at some point when his house was being bombed and his kids and they were bombing churches, that he had a right to be violent and defend himself, and that's what he taught. And at that time, Martin Luther King was becoming popular. Everybody was jumping on the nonviolence movement, and he just taught self-defense, so people felt he was different from that and that he taught violence, but he really didn't.
The only question I really have about Malcolm X is how he talks about integration. I mean, I read a book on him, and it said that, you know, he didn't believe in integration until the black people respected themselves. Then the blacks and the whites could respect each other once we respected ourselves. But I didn't understand a lot, like when teachers talk about Malcolm X, they always say he was so militant and he was so evil and he hated white people, and, you know, and everything like that. And I just, you know, I get really confused about how he feels towards white people because of all the phases he goes through.
Did Malcolm X and Martin Luther King work together in the long run? Because they always, and the media always played them on two different sides.
They had met on at least one occasion, and there's a picture of them shaking hands with each other and smiling in the one of the Capitol buildings in Washington. But there was definitely respect between the two of them. I don't think that they had ever come out and said that, you know, we're working together now toward a particular end, but I think they both understood where each other were coming from. And they simply felt that, well, you know, you have to do your thing, I have to do my thing. But I think they definitely respected each other.
I have a hypothetical situation. If Malcolm was down in the auditorium speaking on anything you saw on the tape, what would be the reaction of first the kids in school and the teachers?
Names that are part of history now. Miles Standish, William Bradford. Oh, there it is. There's the mark of my
It depends on how Malcolm is. I mean, if Malcolm was born in the 90s, I think he would have a different perspective of what he was saying. That was the 60s. Those were violent times, and they called for some violent action.
I think if Malcolm X had, like, speeches he brought to our school today, he'd be kind of like Louis Farrakhan to me, in my sense. Because Louis Farrakhan, he, like, his mind is like back in the 60s, and he's talking to stuff now. So he'd be like kind of like Louis Farrakhan in my sense, because like Louis Farrakhan talked about black people like in the past, but he ain't up on the present, and that's how Malcolm X would come off to me.
He addressed the Rodney King verdict, the riots, the recent Malice Green situation in Detroit, and I think it would upset some of the teachers and basically the Caucasian students, and it would have the black students, you know, ready to take action or whatever, and they would be more aware, and the teachers and everything would probably end up leaving or whatever, going home, calling the police, be a big scene, news cameras, and just be a, you know, bad incident or whatever. But he'd probably be speaking the truth, just speaking a speech, you know, telling how it is, but people would get all furled up and call the police and cameras and bad publicity and everything else.
No longer. Let us then turn our backs on the
I think it's really difficult to say, you know, what Malcolm would say if he was alive today in the 90s, because one of the things you're not taking into account is the fact that Malcolm was not the type of person who stood still. Okay, if you look at his life, he's constantly developing, constantly growing, constantly changing. So his position on different issues that are happening right now, there may be some similarities between what he was saying then and what he would say now, but you can't really say that, you know, he would have the same opinion, or he would be like one particular person or anything like that, because he was his own man. The one thing that you have to say from his life is that he was his own man, and he wasn't afraid to change. He wasn't afraid to, you know, to grow and develop. So he, you know, you can't say how he would come off now.
I had a question about the movie. When do you plan to see it, and what impressions prior to the movie do you have?
I plan to see the movie tomorrow when it first comes out. I'll probably skip school to see it.
Oh, God. Don't worry, this will be out later. You already have done it.
Yeah, and also, the way I feel, I think it's going to teach a lot of people today about Malcolm X, and a lot of people understand where he's coming from. And most people that like wear his shirts now, they have a more meaning of why they're wearing Malcolm X shirts than just wearing it for a fashion statement. So I don't think that's right at all.
Be right back.
Is this not, Minister Malcolm, a call to action of sorts that you are raising here and now?
I don't have to raise a call to action. And this is what I'm trying to make white people see. They have lost their ability to be objective where the race problem is concerned, primarily because they know that no real meaningful results have come from the Negro struggle. And in defense of this, they always call it or label it violence.
You really believe that any meaningful result is going to come from violence?
It's not a case of violence. I think that, see, if you could get away from looking at it as violence, then you would be objective and see that actually all it is a tendency to react to what they are confronting. White people don't realize how frustrated Negroes have become.
You have changed your attitude about the white man in the United States to some extent.
Well, I've broadened my scope. Travel broadens your scope. It gives you a wider understanding. And I have, in my many lectures on college campuses, seen many whites, even as a black Muslim.
Are you not, perhaps, afraid of what might happen to you as a result of making these revelations?
Oh, yes. I probably am a dead man already.
Locally owned, in touch with your needs. We're here to help at Ronjoy Nursing Home in Boardman. Ronjoy is a Medicare and Medicaid-approved facility featuring spacious, single-floor, air-conditioned rooms. Visiting hours are flexible. Admissions are accepted days or evenings, and there's no entry fee. Residents receive 24-hour skilled nursing care, plus physical, occupational, and respiratory therapy. To find out more, call today. Our staff is here to answer your questions at Ronjoy Nursing Home, Route 224 in Boardman.
Explain to this girl that she's got a featured solo in less than a week.
But dear, the girl is standing right there. How much did we go for with the clarinet?
$245.
Well, it better include a set of lips.
Dr. Hampton, what are you doing here?
Got us a little insurance policy on the recital.
It won't help.
Monday morning at 9:30, here where 27 cares.
You will always have a friend here at Carver High. Congratulations.
Hey, how you doing, Mrs. Evans? Decide what you're going to do after graduation, Michael.
Yep, I'm going to go home and make a sandwich.
Well, then, Michael.
Hey, how you doing, Mr. Dean?
I'm fine.
What are you doing after graduation? I don't know. I was thinking about going home and brushing the teeth and combing the hair.
Hey, what's up? We made it.
Hey, I couldn't have gotten through physics without you.
Yeah, well, you're on your own at college.
It's not fair.
That's all right. I'm going to get a job, you know, start working, I'm saved. And I'll be in college in another year or two.
So, what do you have planned, Mike?
I think I'm going to go home and make a sandwich. Okay.
Support the United Negro College Fund. A mind is a terrible thing to waste.
Stay tuned. We'll have more conversations about Malcolm X.
History books are filled with the beauty and splendor of the Old South. That same Southern hospitality is alive and well at Terra, a world-class country inn. Enjoy the finest of life's pleasures in tasteful, luxurious surroundings, from elegant conference and banquet facilities to your choice of 3 critically acclaimed restaurants like Ashley's Gourmet Dining Room, Stonewall's Tavern for steaks and spirits, and the Old South Family Style Restaurant. Terra also offers exceptional service for your conferences, meetings, conventions, retreats, or parties. For superb overnight accommodations, Terra provides 27 luxuriously appointed guest rooms, each personally decorated and comfortably arranged to make your stay at Terra an experience that will surely last a lifetime. The graciousness of the Old South lives on forever at Terra, where uncommon excellence is still a way of life. Terra, a world-class country inn, is just minutes away. For more information, call 1-800-782-2803.
What happens when transporting through space becomes your worst fear?
Why have you kept it a secret?
Because my career in Starfleet would be over.
Terror twists the mind and creates bizarre hallucinations.
Did you see something during transport?
Either there's something in there or I'm going crazy.
Let me get this straight. You think this thing was alive?
Now the time has come to cross the threshold of no return and face a personal nightmare.
We need to bring him back.
Next time on Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Sunday night at 11:30, right here on TV 27.
Pete Sampras comes up to serve. Jan Stevenson makes the drive. A.C. Green and Charles Smith pound the boards. Marcus Allen rushes up the middle. Jay Schrader with the touchdown. There are a lot of different parts to play in the American Red Cross. Play your part.
We went back to Warren G. Harding High School to talk to the kids about Malcolm X and X fashions. Why did we start with asking about Malcolm X? Do you know who he was? Anybody?
He was a leader of the Nation of Islam under Elijah Muhammad.
How'd you know that?
Well, I do a lot of reading. My parents give me a lot of records and stuff on him. So.
Records and books? What books did you read?
Well, I read the Ebony volumes, and plus I always listened to a lot of his records and stuff.
Anybody else know about Malcolm?
He was also a leader in the Black Revolution.
Anyone else?
When he first started, he was under Elijah Muhammad, but after he made his pilgrimage to Mecca, he came back and made his own kind of civil rights movements after that.
I remember what he did when he came back from Mecca. He changed his name.
He changed his name. He wrote his name right here. Sorry to kind of say.
El Hajj Malik El Shabazz.
Okay.
Where'd you get that shirt?
Lonnie.
Lonnie, where'd you get it, Lonnie? Where'd you get it?
RBG.
So they sell them there?
Yeah.
Is it more than just that style?
Yeah, they have a lot of things.
Now, are the kids wearing this at school now?
Yeah.
A lot of people wearing it. A lot of people, but most people wear it don't even know what it means.
Yeah. That's a problem.
That's a problem?
Yeah.
Do you think it's caused by a lack of knowledge with the school system?
Most definitely. I know the first thing I learned about Malcolm in school was that he was that he promoted violence, which isn't true. And until I did research of my own, I didn't know what he really was or what he really stood for. And I found that after I discovered what he actually was, I changed my attitude about him completely.
You are to be commended for taking the time to study on your own, and I'm really proud of you for doing that. So you guys are learning about Malcolm in school?
Not really.
No.
How do you feel? Does that upset you?
Yeah, because it seems like everybody played a part in history, and everybody should have their chance to be put in the history books and at least be talked about a little bit, you know.
A little bit.
A lot. But it's kind of hard.
Rightly. I mean, like she just said, when she said how he was talked about, like they said, they didn't tell you all that he did. They told you the bad things that he did. They never told you none of the good that he did, and he did a lot of good.
So you know he did good.
Yes, I do.
What was that?
He like when he was in the Black Muslims with Elijah Muhammad, he gave blacks something to look into, a group to look up to, people so they could all be together and stuff like that.
Is that something you think we lack now? In 1992?
Yeah.
Do you think we need it?
I think we lack unity, especially. I mean, a lot of us are ununified, and we'll sell drugs to a brother just as quick as we'll sell drugs to our mother or father or anything like that, and it's tearing down the whole race.
So you think that the Malcolm X movement in 92 would help that situation?
Yeah, because Malcolm X and them, they brought on a new system of Black Brotherhood, which showed in all the, pride and stuff, such as wearing dashikis and other things like that. And nowadays you'll see a little bit of that come back once in a while, but
as far as a big revolution, it never comes back again.
And I think that Malcolm X's main purpose was to unite the black race and help us recover our self-respect. And I think that he felt if we didn't respect ourselves as a black race, then how would a white race respect us?
Do you think that's universal? These feelings that you're telling us are universal in your age group? Do you think all the kids are talking like you guys are?
No, because they don't know.
They don't know.
A lot of people, you're asking what the X mean, and they just don't know what it means.
They just wearing it. They just wearing it. It looks good.
Yeah, it's a fad. Okay, you guys know, so you can be the ones that teach them. How can you do that?
There's a lot of people that just don't care. They just wear it just to wear it.
Wear it because everyone else is doing it. And this fad originated when Spike Lee appeared on he appeared on the Arsenio Hall show, and he was wearing his hat to promote his movie that'll be coming out soon, Malcolm X.
Right.
So that's when everybody started really wearing it and getting into it.
So, do you think is there something you can tell the kids now? They're watching you. You have their attention. You have their eyes and their ears. What can you say to them to make them really get into this and start reading about him?
Just read. Like
I mean,
grab a book. Grab a book and
you
read.
ain't doing nothing else and just read. I mean, you know, you can get a lot out of it.
Of what he was or what he did.
You can get a whole lot out of it.
And that's really the only way that you can appreciate, you know, wearing this stuff is if you know something about him. So
It's kind of foolish just to put on something if you don't know what it means. Just like wearing Chinese and you don't know what it means. That's just dumb.
You know?
Do you plan
You guys said that you know what the X means. What does it mean?
Well, X stands for unknown.
Unknown. And what's unknown?
Unknown is what his original last name was, especially from his African forefathers.
What was your biggest impression of reading the autobiography of Malcolm X?
Mine was his whole complete turnaround from what he was. I mean, he just made a complete switch in his life when he was growing up, because he was like how people is now, gangbangers out there selling drugs. You know, he just made a complete switch. He went into jail and did his time and made a switch. And that's my main.
Do you know why he switched? Do you know what turned him around? What, or maybe who?
When he was
in prison,
he was reading
about the books, philosophy, a lot of books and stuff like that. History and all that. And he got on to the Quran. He read over the Quran and stuff like that. And as soon as he got out, he met up with Elijah Muhammad.
He understood what was going on, and I'm sure that in his mind he knew that these things that we were doing were bad. We're just holding the black race back. I think he also showed that education don't just stop with school. I mean, he was locked up in jail, and he did all this reading on his own. Nobody had to really tell him about it. And when he got out, he made up his own mind that he was going to make some changes. So I think that's a real positive role model that a lot of people can look up to.
That's a very good point. The fact that he decided to turn his life around and did study on his own. And I think that's a positive example that a lot of young people can look at and try to implement. Because like you were saying, the studying doesn't just stop in school. You have to go beyond school, and you have to have a certain amount of dedication within yourself for studying and learning. What do you think, if you could say that Malcolm made a contribution to the civil rights movement? You know, a lot of people point to Dr. King and they talk about the contributions that he made to the civil rights movement. Do you think Malcolm made a contribution? If so, what was his contribution?
He made a contribution, but his contribution wasn't shown as much because Martin Luther King, for one thing, was nonviolent. That's what most people were looking for, especially like white Americans. They were looking for a nonviolent way to approach different things like that. But Malcolm X, he had a totally different approach. Same with Marcus Garvey and H. Rap Brown. They all had their own little contribution. And a lot of people look down on it because it was violent, but it wasn't so much violent. It was more of like a self-defense, as they put it. So, you know, you could look at everything as a way that all played part.
You were going to say?
I think it was anybody that just stood up and just was fighting for somebody's rights that was taken from them. I think that was good. So even if he wasn't talking about anything, at least he was talking to black people, getting them together and letting them realize what's going on out there in the world when they was living there.
If Malcolm was alive today, what type of effect do you think he would have on your lives?
Well, for sure. I don't mean to take his spot.
That's okay.
If he was alive today, I think we would be a little bit stronger race. We would be united for sure. And some of this drug dealing, I'm not going to say that it would be completely stopped, but it would be at a slower pace than it is now.
Do you think his contribution would not would help everybody, not just the African-American race? How you feel about that?
Well, he always included every race when he spoke. He didn't always say that he was just speaking about the blacks. He always said red and yellow, you know, whatever you are.
That's true.
So,
I say to myself, like, if a white person has seen that it was working for the black person, they're being united, then they can follow the same path, and everyone could just use the same method, and they can be united also.
I also think that I think he'll be kind of outraged at seeing what a lot of people are doing to his name nowadays, because he had a very strong name, and he stood up for certain things. And a lot of times you see drug dealers and different people like that wearing axes and different things. And I think if he look at that, he stood very strongly against drugs.
He'd really be upset, you know.
It was obvious these kids wanted to learn more about Malcolm X and other African-American leaders. They felt their school system has failed them in teaching African-American history.
I don't think that he would have to be as brash and bold if he were alive now, simply because of the progress that has been made in the last 20 years. But we obviously still need someone like him.
The X is a symbol of a people written off and X'd out. The X was used to state a person's true identity as being unknown, that the name born was not owned by the person bearing that name. The X was also used by the illiterate who could not read or write, so he signed his name with an X. The X tells us that this is something that used to be but is no longer. The ex-wife or ex-husband, the ex-president. Malcolm X is now a commodity. People are making money off this trend while projecting a false idea of Islam. Islam is not a fad. It is not a black thing. It is not an Arab religion. It is not an African religion. It is the religion of over 1 billion people throughout the world. Why is this emphasis on Malcolm X instead of El-Hajj Malik al-Shabazz? El-Hajj Malik al-Shabazz represents man in his global role and universal expression, his aspiration to be complete in his disposition before God, his creator. Malcolm ceased to represent the X before he died, and he died a proper Muslim, El-Hajj Malik al-Shabazz. Those were the comments from the students at Warren G. Harding High School. We'd like to hear from you. If you have any questions or any comments concerning our program, please write to Common Ground, care of WKBN TV 27, 3930 Sunset Boulevard, Youngstown, Ohio, 44512. For the staff and management and all the crew members who worked on our show, and especially for the teens and their parents who made it all possible, thank you very much. We'll see you next time.
Are you tired of trying to take care of yourself? Has housekeeping